Hey, everybody, and welcome to Politics and Poker, the Gen Z political podcast by Gen Z for Gen Z. Today, we're going to talk about Indiana's worst kept political secret, which is that Beau Bayh, Nepo Baby, and Pictionary definition of Nepo Baby is running for Indiana Secretary of State. Now, I'll be honest, when I first saw this, it didn't surprise me. He'd been out touting around to all these different dinners and really making his name known, which is the first time I learned his name was over these past couple months. But I was really disappointed in the coverage. Because all of the papers, IndyStar, WTHR, and all the other news outlets covering this almost made it a foregone conclusion that Beau Bayh was gonna win election. Almost made it a foregone conclusion that Beau Bayh was gonna win the nomination. And nowhere in the coverage that I saw did they mention that we already have a candidate out there who has been working to secure the nomination for the past few months. Her name's Blythe Potter. She's running for Indiana Secretary of State. Now, if you don't know Beau Bayh, he is the son of legendary Governor and Senator Evan Bayh, as well as the grandson of another Bayh whose name is slipping my mind, which tells you just how much I know about the legacy of the Bayh family as a 22-year-old. I can say that now because my birthday was yesterday. I'm no longer 21. I'm 22. Woo! But the Bayh family is a very prominent family in the Indiana Democratic Party. And so a lot of these people have gone for the foregone conclusion that, well, it's a legacy baby. It's a Bayh. Of course he's gonna win. And that's not very democratic, if you ask me. The democratic process is not assuming somebody is going to win until they actually secure the nomination. Now, for those of you who don't know, the way that we pick several of our less prominent statewide election holders in the primaries is they're actually not on the primary ballot. They get picked at the convention. This happens on both the Republican and the Democratic side. So people like the Attorney General, the Auditor, if you ask me, it's not actually that democratic of a process because instead of the entire state getting to vote, it's a handful of delegates who get to vote. About 2,000 for the Democrats. I think maybe about 5,000 for the Republicans. Again, don't quote me on those numbers. Now, I want to make it absolutely clear that my beef is not with Beau Bayh. I've never met him. I have never talked with him. He seems like a wonderful man, and he's Yale educated. So that tells me he's a very smart person and would do an amazing job running this office. He's he's also a Marine Corps veteran and a seventh generation Hoosier. My beef is with the establishment, and I've made that clear. I think the establishment here in Indiana is far too central, as in far too much to the center of the party, and just touts out legacy candidates and old guard candidates that don't align with the grassroots, progressive, populist wing of the party that is taking form and that is really going to dominate Indiana politics. As Blythe Potter herself said, and I'm not directly quoting, but I'm paraphrasing, this nomination fight is going to determine whether Indiana Democrats move to the left or whether they stay a centrist party that is basically just Republican light with a few key differences. And I, for one, am excited to see it move to the left. Because what has staying in the center, being Republican light with a few key differences, got us over these past 20 years? I'll tell you what it's got us. It's got us a supermajority locking Democrats out of power. Last year, two women, two incredible women, sought the nomination for Attorney General. You had Beth White, who was part of the old guard, and then you had Destiny Wells, who was part of this new insurgency, left wing, populist sort of fighters. And I attended the convention. I supported Beth White, even though she was a part of the old guard. I've I'll be honest, I've got my problems with both candidates, but I thought Beth, in my personal opinion, was the better candidate. Um, but I'll tell you, at the convention, I heavily considered switching my vote because the way the convention works is that there's a nominating process, and so you've got to be nominated, and then by two people, and then we vote. Beth White trotted out these two legacy, old guard, probably in their 60s, 70s, or 80s, people to nominate her at the convention. Compare that with who Destiny Wells had nominate her. She had Brandon Suckbun, the new young mayor of Terre Haute, and then I can't remember who the other one was, but it was a woman who was much, much younger. And the contrast could not have been clearer of who was the old guard and who was the new insurgency, energetic campaign. And it almost made me consider changing my vote. Now, Destiny Wells ended up winning because she had the name ID and is very popular amongst the electorate. I think Blythe Potter can do the same thing. We have seen a lot of excitement from older people, but that's just because he's a Bayh. And people hearken hear Bayh and they hearken back to Evan Bayh in the days when we actually had a Democratic governor and a Democratic Senate instead of being completely locked out of power. And Evan Bayh did some great things as governor. He really did. But that was in the 90s. And it's time to move past the old way of thinking and of doing in the Democratic Party and of governing. That's the big thing. Like I said, most Democrats are here in Indiana are really centrist. And I get that. We have to capture the Republican vote if we want to win. But as I always say, if you're given two options between Pepsi and Pepsi Zero or Diet Pepsi, I'm going with the regular Pepsi all the time. And I chose Pepsi over Coke because I like Pepsi. So you can come at me if you are a dyed in the wool Coke fan. Blech. Too metallic tasting for me. What we really need is we really need a candidate who can excite people and who has a new and different and unique way of approaching Republicans and of approaching independents and of approaching libertarians. It's not, and that way is not, hi, I'm just like my opponent, only here are like 3 to 5 key different areas where we disagree on. Vote for me. No. If a Republican's given that choice, they're going to go with the Republican. Because why not? I don't know Beau Bayh's positions. I haven't watched his launch campaign ad or seen any of his policy platforms. But I can assure you that it's going to be the same as everybody else who has run and failed. It is going to be your middle of the road, your I'm connecting with all Hoosiers approach, which can sometimes work, but hasn't. Traditionally hasn't. Not to bash Jennifer McCormick, but that's how she branded herself, and she still lost by 30 points. We need a new way of doing things in the Democratic Party. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. If we want to run these moderate, these Republican light candidates over and over and over and over again, and lose over and over and over again, well, the Indiana Democratic Party is not going to be a viable party for much longer. We need progressives. We need populists. We need people every day, working class Hoosiers, who know what it's like to get up at 5 in the morning, brew that cup of coffee, sigh, and go to work. Come home, clean the house, cook dinner, take care of the kids, and go to sleep. We don't need some Nepo baby who has been handed everything on a silver platter his entire life. Yes, he is a Marine Corps veteran, and that takes a lot. Blythe Potter is a veteran, and she knows what it takes. She's a small business owner. She is a 3-time candidate. She is a mom. She is a wife. She knows what she's doing. So I urge you, become a delegate to the Indiana State Convention. It's really simple. All you have to do is it's really simple. All you have to do is in January or February, apply at your local county elections office to run for the convention. Most counties and most precincts don't have enough candidates to actually have a primary to choose the delegates. So if you file, you are more than likely, and I would almost give it a 99% guarantee that you'll be a delegate to the convention. Unless you live in Indy, then there might be a chance you're not. But come out. It's a day, it's at the convention center. It's really fun. The voting is not. Hopefully next year they'll have the voting mess figured out. That was fun waiting in line for like 2 hours. Woo. But do that and support Blythe. Or support the candidate who you think best aligns with your visions for Indiana. But I can tell you, Blythe Potter best aligns with my visions for Indiana. He's 29, early 30s. I'm not supporting him. I will not. And I'll leave you with this one thought. Beau Bayh is 29 or early 30s. Blythe Potter is a. And I'll leave you with this final thought. Beau Bayh is in his late 20s, early 30s. He's a millennial, I think. Blythe Potter's in her 40s. And as a young progressive populist, and as a young candidate who wants to build a coalition of other young candidates, I can tell you right now, I'm voting for Blythe Potter. Because age isn't everything. Age is a large factor for me, but it isn't everything. What you believe in, what you stand for, who you'll fight for, and who you've proven that you'll fight for matters a whole lot more to me than the number of times you've passed around the sun. All right, that's it for my special episode of Politics and Poker, the Gen Z political podcast. As always, I'm your host, Reese Axel-Adams. Take it easy, y'all.